Welcome to the Pantheon of M. I am your host, Ray. I'll be joined shortly by my co-host, Evie. But today we are going to be reviewing Thor Dark World, directed by Alan Taylor and written by a number of writers. But specifically, I want to point out or single out is Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, the writers of all three Captain America films in the Infinity War and Endgame storylines. Now not to throw shade on them. They are just one of the many writers in the story of this. Now, of course, the director Alan Taylor isn't that well known. His next film that came after this was Terminator Genesis, which wasn't well received. And then he did some Game of Thrones episodes, which I guess is his redemption. But realistically, this is considered one of the lower tier, or to put it mildly, the less regarded films of the 22-film Infinity War saga. Now, there was an article in Vanity Fair with Patty Jenkins. She wrote an article that came out in March, I believe, of this year, because she was in the promotional stages of release of Wonder Woman 1984, which of course got pushed back and pushed back again. But she was one of the initial directors attached to this film. She backed out. They said creative reasons, but she kind of gave the answers of why, and that was because the script wasn't really that great. She recognized that. She's coming off the success of doing Monster, the film that garnered Charlize Theron an Oscar award, and it was considered a really great film. I saw it finally. I saw it maybe a couple of years after the whole Oscar buzz, and it was good. I mean, considering well, put it this way, it was a really surprising film done by Christina Ricci and Charlize Theron. I thought it was just a great piece. And Patty Jenkins redeemed herself again doing Wonder Woman, and then of course its sequel. Now, the reason why she stepped away from it was because when she wanted to do a Romeo and Juliet story between as a side story with the film, with Thor and Jane Foster's character, Natalie Portman's character. This film wouldn't have done that. It wouldn't develop that story. And one of the reasons why Portman signed on, even though it's on her contract, was that she knew she was working with Jenkins. But when she pulled out, I guess there was some. I guess she wasn't happy with it. But a contract is what it is, and you just have to be a professional and you do it. So there was some talk about maybe she didn't give it at all. She phoned it in. I don't know. I thought she did a pretty good job considering. Though the film itself, again, though everyone's seen it, it really has a redemption quality after you see Endgame, and that is what it boils down to, and that's enlarged in part by the involvement of Marcus and McFeely writing Endgame and understanding the key points of the Dark World. Now, Dark World itself, when I saw it, I'm a huge fan of the comic book itself, of the knowledge of the Infinity Gauntlet and the gems and what they represented. So when Evie and I saw this back when it was in theaters, Evie didn't understand the nature of the gems. So when I spoke to him, we'll go into this too later on, but to understand this was the Reality Stone and seeing it just being a tendril, gaseous, maybe sentient state that went from gas to solid was kind of weird, and it didn't do anything with reality. It just made the planets dark. I mean, and the character itself was kind of odd because the Dark Elves, all they want was to bring everything to darkness. The light bothers them. It doesn't kill them. It just bothers them. So it was an odd concept. And again, the concept was once every million years, all the 9 realms, according to Asgardian lore, lines up, and then you could create darkness on everything, on all planets, and all systems. And that was the juxt of the movie. So the point of the Dark Elves, and they could have just the whole point of the Dark Elves, it bothered me. The point and the usage of the gemstone, knowing what it is, bothered me more. But the only redeeming quality was the mid-credits scene where you get the Collector introducing the idea that these are Infinity Gemstones, and that was the first time in the entire story since Phase 1 we acknowledge what these things are, and that was exciting for me, and that was what made up for it. Now, the final post-credits scene, not so much, but then sometimes you get things that are just funny or supposed to be funny, and you just go with it. So with that, let's go to my partner Evie and get his thoughts of the movie.
Good, good. So we're talking about Thor: Dark World. So what are your initial thoughts of the movie?
It was pretty good, lots of action and stuff. A lot going on, a lot of fighting. Thor tries to defend um, Malekith and the Dark Army again, as and also joining with Loki and save Asgard again.
Yeah.
He must be getting tired of that. That was good, which is fine.
Yeah, no, it's not a horrible like. I didn't like come out of the theater saying, "Oh my god, this is the worst film ever." Like every Marvel film I've seen, and I'm being perfectly honest here, I enjoyed walking out of it because it's always when you're seeing it in the theater for the first time, you're trying to you're learning this, you're trying to figure out what's going on, and then when you get the reveal, you
Yeah.
get to appreciate it. And I kind of wanted more of leading into Infinity War because the mid credit so that was the collector and actually acknowledging the Infinity Stones. So
Right.
that for me as a fan, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and so we got that. But overall, the mid credit saved for me is what saved it. The final credit, the post credit was like okay, but it was kind of funny. And then the comedy, which was there, I did like, but it was really sparse.
Right.
This was like if you took the project, whoever directed this was never gonna be a stud like Taika Waititi or
Mhm.
Patty Jenkins or James
Right.
Gunn, because those who did those films and they did well, they went on to be they're like rock stars in the directing world. They're the
Right.
next James Cameron, they're the next Spielberg. So this one, if you did Dark World, no one knows who you are, man. Like
Right.
Alan
Yeah.
Taylor. If I said Alan Taylor to you, you'd be like, I have no idea who
Mhm.
that is.
Yeah.
Is he a musician? No, he directed Thor: Dark World. He's like my condolences to the family.
Oh no.
It wasn't that great. Okay, so you gave it your rating 4 out of 10.
Yep. It's good.
Okay, so any last words before we call it a day?
Not really, bro.
Okay.
No, it was okay, but don't want to see it again.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough. With this movie, I think it's Tales of Asgard or something like that. So
Yeah.
or Blood
Yeah.
Brothers. So we're going to the animation land next. So we'll get more Thor. So if you hated this one, we got something good coming your way. Uh, so
True.
with that, Evie, I want to say thank you for joining me, and we'll
Thank
see you
you
next week.
for having me.
All right, take care.
Of the movie.
Later.
Well, thanks, Evie. That concludes our podcast. If you want to get a little bit more information, you can check out my blog at rayviews.blogspot. It's my complimentary written piece, which is Thor: Dark World. Sorry, and it gets a link to the trailer, some interviews, some background information on the characters, some behind the scenes, etc. So if you want some more, you can check that out. Also, if you want to hear a little bit longer piece to the YouTube show, we do an audio podcast too, an audio affiliated podcast. It's on Podbean, Apple iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on Breaker Radio, and a couple other sites. I'm very close to getting together a actual website to join everything together. So it's a one-stop shop that's all things Pantheon of M. So you can take a look at that. I'll put that up shortly in upcoming future shows. But until then, thank you for watching. I appreciate all you've done. Please hit subscribe, hit thumbs up. Thumbs up does everything for me. We don't want money. These are hard times. Just give us a thumbs up. Tell us that you like your show, you like what we've done. If you leave a comment, that's even great. Let us know your thoughts. So we'll be doing Phase 3 coming up next year. We'll be reviewing all Phase 3 films. But if you send us an email, I'll leave you a link to that too, of where you can reach us and give us your a paragraph or a one-line review of what you think of a certain Phase 3 movie is, whether it's Spider-Man Homecoming, whether it's Doctor Strange, anything else. Pick a movie, talk about it. Let us know your thoughts of the movie. We'll love to read your comments out there. We'll be reading your emails on the audio version of the podcast. Acknowledge you for sure on our show. So with that, on behalf of myself and Evie, I want to say thank you, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.